Almost. All right, here we go. How you guys doing? Welcome to another Tuesday. It is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm your host, Greg Russell, here with my good friend and partner, Mr. Jerry Franklin Poe. And we got another exciting episode for you guys today. We are fresh back from Podfest 2024, and we're going to share with you some of the things we learned and some of the resources we found. So get ready, tell somebody we're on, and enjoy the show. Here we go.
Hello. Back again. Technology Tuesday. That's right, folks. Every week, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Greg Russell, Jerry Franklin Poe, bringing you the practical knowledge, that practical application so you can have practical solutions for your businesses. And I want to extend not only an opening here for authors, speakers, coaches, but now our audience has expanded to podcasters. I saw that we had, after Podfest, many podcasters joined the group. So welcome to the community. Welcome to the fellowship. Welcome to the show. This week, we're going to be dealing with a couple things. Resources, of course, as always, as usual. But we're going to give you some recaps. I know we did a short video in the group from Podfest. So if you are not a member of the group, make sure you join technologytuesday.com so you can get what's happening inside the group. But for those who didn't see it, we're going to extend that debrief. It's been a couple days since I've been back in Pennsylvania, and Greg is now back in Texas. So we've left the sunny state of Florida, Orlando, where all the magical things are happening, where Disney is all over the place and Mickey's running around crazy. We've left all that. We're back. I'm back to the cold. Greg's probably still warm, but we are back home. So we're going to get into some things that we learned, some insights we've gained, because throughout of our journeys, throughout our travels, our goal is to share with you what we experience, because we're learning and growing all at the same time, and we'll make sure that you are taking part of our experiences as well.
Yeah, man, I had a great time, and I think it was really good to step away from the business and actually work on it, and actually work on just one aspect of it. So, I mean, I had a great time. I think it was refreshing for me to step away from it and to actually network and talk with a quite a few other entrepreneurs and get different perspectives on it. So, as our show is technically a podcast, it's not an audio podcast. And for most of the people there who are at Podfest, they have an audio only podcast. So we're going to share some things we learned. But Jerry, I wanted to get your take on what do you think about having an audio only or both an audio and a video podcast?
Awesome, man. And this was like a major topic of discussion, the whole idea of audio versus video. And some people were in the middle. I believe that you can do both. I believe there's an audience for both, and I believe that if you're doing both, you'd want to have a different version for both. And what I mean by that is that the video has things that you cannot do on audio. If I'm listening to, so if I'm reading a book can have pictures in it, right? Like it has diagrams in it. So when I say pictures, I'm sure people are like, is Jerry reading picture books? Like I do read books that have non-pictures. I'm talking about
Right.
diagrams or things where it gives a detailed explanation. If I'm listening to something on Audible, when I'm listening to it, I don't see those diagrams. I can hear the person talking about it, but I can't see it, which means I got to go back and either grab the book or look at the PDF file that they have attached with it, but I don't see it. And the same thing happens here with our video show. Like when you're showing certain resources, there's things you can display on video that a person who's just listening to the pure audio won't be able to see the benefit of that. So yeah, there is an audio purpose. Like there's a purpose for it. So if you're listening in the car, if you're listening as you are out doing a walk, or you're on the track at the gym, or you're on a treadmill, audio has its purpose there. But we all know that when people are listening to things and you say something that needs to be viewed, right? They need to see it, that they will backtrack. They'll go look it up. So eventually they're going to come back to something like, oh, what was that thing they mentioned? They're going to find a picture of it. So there is a reason why we have visuals. So the video component is necessary for people to show people things, because they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. So imagine if a picture's worth 1,000 words, what is this video worth?
Yeah, I think that for our particular show, it doesn't lend itself to audio only unless it's a different unless it's different. But for a lot of the people who are audio only podcast, um, they're not trying to show anything for the most part, and especially ones where they're mostly interviews, where they're interviewing guests and they're getting their content from the guests by interviewing the guests. And those, it would be easy to just take the same video um, and audio. It could be the same, but I think depending on the content and how it's delivered would determine whether it should be audio or video. And I think that for a lot of people who have audio only, a big part of this, what we learned and what we're seeing others learned, is that video plays a major piece inside of this in how you can gain new listeners, gain new viewers. So I think video is definitely a major piece to podcasters, and I think more and more of them are realizing that now.
Yeah, man, it really comes down to how a person uses it, right? How a person uses audio versus how a person uses video. I know people who will watch YouTube on their phone, and then as they get into their car, they will still have the audio from the YouTube playing. They may not be looking at the video, but they're listening to what the person is saying, right? So they're putting what the hearing part over the watching part for the sake of they want to continue that content, right? But think about this, Greg, in terms of the evolution of our society. There was a time period where video did not exist, right? We did all we had was the radio. Before the radio was the written word. And society makes shifts throughout history. So radio, it used to just be people hearing the story, right? They had the Lone Ranger and Roy Rogers and all that. So they would listen by the radio and they would be like making the sound effects. Click, 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 and they're acting it out on radio, and you had to use your imagination to visualize what was being said. So there's still a purpose for that in podcasting world, right? We saw that there were people who were doing the imaginary stories with their podcast,
Yeah.
but how many folks would say that they would choose to take a TV out their house and just put a radio in their house to listen to Netflix on the radio? I don't know if they would want to go with that. So for some of us, the television killed some of those radio shows. And I'm not saying that the podcast uh, doesn't have a market. It's just a purpose for each one. There's a purpose for people who like to watch stuff, and there's a purpose for people who like to listen to stuff. Radio still exists. There's still music on the radio, still news broadcasts on the radio. You think about it. My father, for example, my father has was it Sirius XM, right? And all his stations, his presets is like CNN, MSNBC, right? So he's listening to the same people. The people are on TV at the moment, but he's listening to them on TV talk on the radio, and that's because you're away from the television, right? Same thing when I'm growing up, right? I used, growing up in church. For those who don't know, I'm a preacher's kid, and growing up in church, especially the Apostolic Pentecostal Church, those services would be long, 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 long. So the Eagles would always play at 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock p.m. is when the game starts. We were not out of church at 1 o'clock. So when service ended, I would jet to the parking lot and jump in the car and turn on the radio. But I would rather be home watching the game. Yes, I'm following the play by play, and I'm listening to my man Merrill Reese on the radio, and I'm hearing him describe it, and I'm trying to visualize it in my head. But I'd really want to see Randall Cunningham pass the ball to Fred Barnett live on television. So I'm not taking anything away from podcasting. I'm not saying video is even better than podcasting. I think there's a purpose for each one. Each one is a tool, and there's an audience for both.
I completely agree. And we have a comment that made some sense here. And basically, my man James, I call him Sean. says promotion of the content. So basically, and this is something that they talked about a lot. They were talking about using video to promote the audio podcast. So like using it for shorts and TikToks and reels and things like that, where you can take a short segment or a sound bite. And they was talking about setting up your content in a way where you can get that sound bite, so that if you pre-record the video and then you chop it up, let's say several days before you release, you can use this video content to promote the release of the podcast. And so I think that was something that was really, really eye opening for me to see that
James has a question. Yeah,
inside of the
you can ask
podcast.
the question. James, go ahead and pose your question if you have a question.
Yeah, man. Go ahead and put the question in the comment. We'll pull it up and do the best
Yeah,
we
so
can.
great. I believe there's value in both things, right? I'm not all on one side or the other. Because in my world, each one has a purpose. I love listening to stuff when I'm out and about and I got other things going on, right? And I also like watching stuff when I have time to focus on it. But there are times where I don't have focus time, right? I don't have time to be watching a screen, a
Right.
computer screen or TV screen. That's when something playing in the background, and that's where the audio versions come into play. Like I can listen to something at the same time I can be working on um, stuff for my business. So I'm working on stuff for my business. I listen to something in the background. But then if you are chilling and you're trying to relax, then hey, video comes into play. Yes, I remember the first time I experienced Christmas, and I can remember my major Christmas. Yeah, I do remember.
I wonder
About you,
what
Greg?
sparked that question. Do you remember the first time you experienced Christmas? Yeah, yeah. It was a very young age. Somewhere for me, somewhere between the age of 4 and 6. Um, and I remember it uh, pretty vividly. I remember what I got. I remember making a lot of noise. But hey, man, let us know what inspired that question. Um, and in the meantime, Jerry, how about you tell us what was your biggest takeaway from Podfest?
My biggest takeaway from Podfest, and I was sharing this with a colleague last night, is how much technology has changed the world. I take for granted, I've been going to conferences, Greg, for a long time, like over 20 years of attending events and conferences and major things like Podfest. And I guess I just take for granted how much things have changed. I was talking to this colleague of mine, I remember going to one conference and where we on speaking many years ago. At the time, the iPhone was only 3 years old and Instagram had just started. And now we're in an environment where we're at Podfest, and because of the technology, some of the rules of the game that people had to live by back when I was going to that speaker conference, in terms of like this topic works, these topics don't, like the boxes that you had to fill, the ways that you had to level up in terms of your game, a lot of it has changed now because technology has leveled out things for people. Anyone can get a microphone and start recording, edit the recording, sound professional. You don't need a lot. The one talk that we went to, right, it was on the technology track, and it was how to start from 0 to 1,500, and anywhere in between in terms of your editor, your software, your hosting, for your podcast, right? Editing the podcast, hosting the podcast, the microphone for the podcast, the headphones for the podcast, all that equipment, the mixer and all that stuff, that a person can do something on a budget less than $500 or on $200 or $100 budget. And she even offers some options that were free, so a person can create a professional sounding audio track, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to go to a studio. I mean, for example, Netflix just dropped this thing about We Are the World, right? The recording of the We Are the World just premiered on Netflix the other day, and I was watching it. Well, back then, they were flipping through a Rolodex to try to get everybody to come to this thing. They all had to come to a studio. In today's world, they wouldn't have to do all that to do that recording. They could have recorded. They wouldn't have to flown like Bruce Springsteen had to fly from Buffalo all the way to LA. They wouldn't have done all that type of stuff. Now they could have still, like, they could have had, people just record something and send it all in. So the topics that we saw at podcasts, the amount of different topics, the diversity of the topics, and what people were talking about, what was important to them. Those topics years ago probably wouldn't have been able to have a platform because the cost and the technology wasn't there. It wasn't affordable enough. And now it makes people's voices heard. It allows people to have access and have a voice. That was the biggest thing I got. The voices matter.
Yeah, that's key. I think that for me, the biggest thing was seeing the difference between those who were entrepreneurs with a podcast versus those who were just creators. And the creators, they desire to create first, and the money making part they hope comes along with it. And a lot of times it may or may not. And so you either have there's either the creator side or there's the entrepreneur side, and are they mixed well enough so that you can be a creator and also make money. So I think for me the biggest thing was just seeing that so many people are there are so many creators out there who are not necessarily entrepreneurs yet. And those tracks where they talked about making money with the podcast and the different ways to do it, because a lot of times those creators only see the top 1% who make money with sponsorship, and there's just so many other ways to make money with your creativity and your podcast or your book or any of those other things if you have that entrepreneurial mindset or sight with your creativity.
Yeah, I think that is a good takeaway too, Greg, is like the idea of how many ways. Like I think one of the things that came up throughout the weekend was that some people get limited in their thinking, and because they see a lot of people doing it one way, they assume that's the only way it can be done. When it came to the monetization track, and I heard someone mention that there were like 9 different ways to monetize a podcast, and most people were just jumping on one, which was sponsorship, because that's what they've seen a lot of people to do. um, I see in the comments the idea of bringing people on as a guest. So if you are in our network and you want to come on as a guest, let us know, because there's a feature coming out in Ecamm that I think we talked about it maybe a week or two ago, or actually last week we talked about it last week. But
Yep.
we're going to be able to make it easier for us to bring people in on as guests. So give us shout out, let us know in the group. Let us know like what topic idea you'd like to talk about and discuss with us, and yeah, we'll have you jump on and we'll schedule a show for you to be here as one of our guest members on the show.
Yeah, just as Jerry said, if you want to be a guest, come on. We would love to bring on guests, and we can do that. So just reach out to us in the group, and we will get it all scheduled and make sure that we don't have any moments like Janet Jackson. Kind of pre-schedule everything and make sure it's good to go. Well,
Yeah.
listen,
So
man.
for those who don't, so Greg, one of this questions might come up. Is I hope like we're talking. Does everyone know what a podcast actually is?
So let me break it down, because the idea of the podcast has changed over the years. So if you go back, what a podcast is, technically, a podcast is just a blog post with an audio file. It is just a blog post with an audio file attachment. Now, here's what the makes the blogs different from a website. A blog has something called an RSS feed, and it stands for really simple syndication. So when you create a blog post and you hit publish, it basically sends out that signal to those who subscribe to that feed that you have a new update. And so what became popular was if you add an audio file, now people could get this audio file and they called it a podcast. And then podcast networks came around because it was like, well, these audio files, most web servers don't want to start hosting a whole lot of these audio files because it wasn't what the web server was created for, that type of size of file. So services started to say, hey, we will distribute your RSS feed with this audio file to the people who subscribe to it. And then we will also submit it to Apple, Spotify, and the other big podcast networks. So technically, It is just a um, blog post with a audio file, but the most key part of that is the really simple syndication. So you can subscribe to it so that when the person who publishes, you get a notification so that you can check out their latest content. And so technically, that's what a podcast is.
Yep,
So,
very good, man.
Jerry, did that answer the question, or do you think there's?
Yeah, I think you're good. I think, I think sometimes, man, we jump in so deep that we gotta like step back and be like, we better define some of this stuff for listeners who may
Yeah,
not know exactly what it is, because I don't want to take anyone for granted, and I want to go over anybody's head. And sometimes because we've been doing this stuff for so long, and we're used to it, and we're part of the world of content creation and marketing and sales, and we've both been in business for over 20 plus years now, that we forget that some people are still um, figuring things out and may not know all of the ideas and what they really mean.
yeah. So the idea is be able to just subscribe to that content so it will come to your device or email notification when new content is there. And so technically, the podcast has always started off as audio first. And the video is different because video files are so much bigger. They're not trying to download to that podcast player. So videos have a whole different way to do it. They are considered podcasts as well, and some of the bigger podcast companies offer video podcasting where we actually upload the file to them. So
Yeah,
there's a little difference between the video podcast and the audio podcast, but at the end of the day, it's just being able to subscribe to the content and get it as soon as it's published.
and this will be the last thing I'll say, Greg, and you can start jumping into the tools that just to add to what you were saying, that some of these new platforms like Spotify and others are going to be giving people the option of watching the video or listening to the audio. They're going to have an option for both. So that's
Yep.
where the direction is moving in the future.
Yep. And even ours too, because our video is on YouTube podcast, which was a new feature that was released late last year. So with that, I got some resources to share. You guys want to hear us and see about some resources we found at Podfest?
I hear
Sounds
them saying,
like a
"Oh yeah,"
winner.
they're like, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Greg, oh
Let's see.
yeah."
Let's see if we can get this going, Jerry. One of the ones that I found that I think is really going to be a big deal is something that allows you to automate Instagram. So Instagram is a huge social media platform, and a lot of marketers will be like, when they're offering something or trying to share something, they will say, check the link in my bio, and they will use their bio as a way to display the link. And some marketers would use what's called a link tree, because on Instagram you can only post one link in your bio. So they would use a link tree to have all the things they would offer on that. This particular tool that we learned about at Podfest is called Stampede, and it allows you to say, if you want this thing or you want to hear more about this thing, put hashtag keyword in there, and this tool will go find it and send them the automatic reply that you want, including the link. So you no longer have to send people to your bio to get the link, because if you're a marketer like me and or Jerry, we offer multiple things at multiple times, and then that content can consistently that interaction consistently help your engagement on Instagram, because you have people engaging, giving you that hashtag and keyword for them to get the thing. So it is called Stampede, and you can go grab it. They have some plans starting at $25 a month, and basically you can put up to 5 automations, and it will do up to 100 automated DMs sent per month. So if you need more than that, you can move up in the plans, but you can get started for monthly at $25, and you can save a little bit if you do the annual plan. So that is Stampede. I highly recommend you guys go check it out if you are using Instagram and if you are trying to drop links for people to your landing pages, your product offerings, your affiliate links, etc. That is Stampede.
Yeah, I really thought that was a cool one because of some of the limitations you have on Instagram in terms of writing things in the description, and you cannot have a clickable link in the description. And now you can start in a particular post getting people to respond to you, and you can respond to them in their messengers.
Yep. Yep. So listen, that was one of them. I'm gonna share a couple others. That's okay. Yeah, man.
Just
So
keep it
let me
rolling, keep it rolling.
yeah, check this out. We got Woxo. So I'll move this over a little bit. This one we mentioned before, but I think that it's worth mentioning again because this one allows you to create video. They've updated it recently, so now you can create video with AI just by giving it what you want the video about. And that's what they're really promoting on their site. But I know the inside feature is even better than that because that's only one feature. The feature that I really love, Jerry, is that it will allow you to create masses amount of videos by clipping videos together. So if you create a TikTok reel or a short and you want to put an ending on it, like, hey, check out the full video here, or, go here to get the rest of the show or whatever, you can put that on the end of the videos that it creates. So it's the only tool that I know that will allow you to bulk edit, right? So if you have 75 videos and you want to add an intro or you want to add an ending, you can put that on all the videos and it will do it for you in one swoop. There's no other tool out there that I've found that will allow you to bulk edit. The other thing too is we usually find a lot of things on AppSumo, and this was once on AppSumo. And there is so many tools and resources that are coming to AppSumo. We can't find them all. So I want to say I'm sorry I missed this one when it was on there, but still, for the price that it is and what it does at this particular moment, it's still worth it. So if you're on a monthly plan, it's going to cost you about $14 to get started, and you can do about 500 video credits, right? So you can check that out and see what all you can get. I think this is a great tool for those who want to put out consistent videos, which you need to do to work that algorithm to get the views and get the people who are interested in your topic. And the competition is only going to increase. So if you get started now and be consistent with it, then your video game will be top notch because you are using tools that can help you mass produce and bulk edit, which there isn't anything else out there that I found will allow you to do that. So that one is Woxo.tech, WOXO.tech, Woxo.tech.
It's a good one.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited about that one. People ask me all the time, how do you find this stuff? But these are things I found and I haven't used yet. So I'm sharing with you what I'm going to be using and testing out and playing with. So you're getting it in early before I'm like, yes, this is the best. I know for sure this is the best thing. People always want to know how can you find the stuff out ahead of time. So that is why I'm sharing it with you guys on Technology Tuesday. All right, we got one more, and then we will call it a show. So this next one, guys, um this is an AppSumo deal. It is called One Take. Jerry, I'm excited about this one, bro. This one is dope, son. It allows you to basically create your video in one take. So you can take a talking head video. It's a different type of editor. So it's similar, if you're familiar with Descript, it's similar to how you can edit with the words on the side. But what I like about it is you can highlight a section of words and then you can search for a picture and it will do the overlay. It'll search for that picture via AI and do the overlay. So now you can have overlays coming in and out of the thing. Also, like Descript, it will take your ums and ahs out of the video. And you can also edit by taking words out as well. So I love it because when they say one take, they really mean one take because if you ever tried to create video and you messed up and you had to do it over and over again, this particular one I think is going to be huge because it eliminates for you to have to do that. um, you can either put a overlay over the time that you messed up, or you could just take out the messed up sentence and just start from scratch and have it edit it for you on the fly. I think that one take is going to be a huge factor in saving time when it comes to editing videos. So this again is an AppSumo deal. It's fairly new on there, so it should be there for a while. I highly recommend you guys come. Sorry for all the scrolling, and check out the video to see how it works, and to see if you think it would work for you. I think it is one of the best tools out there right now. This is one of the hidden gems inside of AppSumo, and it is called One Take. You can get started with tier one for $59, and then goes all the way up to $300 if you want more of the videos and credits. So we'll scroll down, take our time down here, and show you. So basically, you can run 10 simultaneous projects with 30 up to 30 minutes of 30 minutes per video. And so that's 300 minutes of video, and it gives you 500 AI credits per month. And then for just $90 more, it starts to go unlimited minutes with 30 projects and 1,500 credits. And then if you are a company, you may want to drop the 300 for the unlimited and run it for clients. So again, check out Take One on AppSumo right now if you're interested in having to make video editing much easier for yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes, sir. Yes,
And
sir.
that's the good thing for those watching about AppSumo is like you'll every once in a while they'll send in. I mean, it's a whole bunch of good stuff. It's like gold, but every once in a while there's like a super diamond that just drops. It's like, and then next thing you know, that's the thing that blows up. It becomes really popular.
Yep. I think that one's going to be popular because, creating promotional videos or videos, and you want them to come out good, is hard because usually you have to take multiple takes. I know from experience, um, of how many takes it
Yep.
may take to get it just right. And I think with this, you can just get it down in one take, thus the name. So, highly recommend you guys check that out. I think that's going to be a game changer for some people. I truly believe it's going to be a game changer for me, and I can't wait to play with that joint. So that's what's up for me in the near future. What I'm going to be grabbing, those tools are what I'm going to be using. And if you notice, most of them had everything to do with video because video is going to be huge. So if it's not a focus for you for this year, I highly recommend you think about how much video can help you. And that was, again, one of the main things I learned at PodFest. So, Jerry, man, that's it. That's what we got for this week. Let's do it.
All right, and let me end with one other highlight from Podfest. Greg Russell and Busta Rhymes. When Busta Rhymes dropped on the dance floor, woo! Greg was on it, man. I was like, yo, where did that come from? Oh my goodness. That was another. That's why you gotta be there live. We have no video footage. We were not recorded what happened at the Podfest stayed at the Podfest Expo. So folks, if you like these videos, please share them out. If you comment, we'll comment back in the group. Tell us what you like. Tell us what nuggets you got, whether you were watching live or on the replay. And like and share. Join the group, technologytuesday.com. We look forward to seeing you next week. Same time, same place.
Take care.